This is the Fight for Your Health, the show that teaches you how to master the fine art of living your life on purpose and have a longer, healthier, and happier life through the martial arts lifestyle. The show is hosted by Professor Buitron and his co-host, Grand Master Richard Hackworth. These two experts have combined their efforts and are on a mission to make the world a safer, healthier, and happier place through the martial arts lifestyle. Now, to tell it like it is, here are your...
We're back at you with Fight for Your Health, and this week our co-host, Grandmaster Richard Hackworth, was not able to come in, so prayers to him. He had a little emergency. But otherwise, we're going to be touching base with a great martial artist and an expert in his field, which is Jesse Murrieta. And Jesse, how are we doing? Doing good?
Doing great. It's an honor to be back.
Well, it's always an honor and a pleasure to have you, because there's a lot of stuff in the martial arts that people kind of bypass or don't understand it exists.
Right.
As well as martial arts is a spectrum of different personages that go in there. You got folks that go in there just specifically for training. They want to have some self-confidence and build some self-confidence.
True.
And then, of course, you get the guys that want to go in the ring. And you have some guys that just want to do martial arts and continue with the traditions of it.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, you have the guys that love it so much they continue and they become security experts like you and a consultant. And
right.
So let's touch base on the different conditionings and what you've come up with.
Honestly, for me, I've always been involved in one form of a martial art or another. Even as a wee one, started with wrestling, obviously, like high school wrestling, boxing. So I guess at that point, the conditioning that came out of that one was more sports-oriented conditioning, very mission-specific to both of those sports. From the wrestling to the boxing, and what a lot of people got to understand is that the conditioning for both is also very different. Obviously, you can be a great boxer but have lousy cardio on the ground, and vice versa. Quite honestly, but from there, actually, that actually branched me off more and towards I continued with the martial arts, from boxing, from wrestling to Kempo. And it just the door opened up for me at that point. Anything that was martial arts oriented and so on and so forth. The ninja craze back in the day also had a big play in my decision to kind of stick it out with the martial arts. It was a big influence. Everything from back in the day was a big influence, but a lot of people thought it was just going to be a fad for me or whatever have you not. And no, I mean, I stuck with it. Here I am, almost 50. I'm still doing it. But yes, there's been various types of conditionings over the years. It has definitely absolutely evolved from back when I was like 13 to I am now. Now it's more along lines of functionality than anything else.
Absolutely. And it's good that you said that about the conditioning and very mission oriented between boxing and wrestling. And you can take it savate or kickboxing, point fighting, so on and so forth. Each one of those has a different type of conditioning that a person or an athlete that picks one of those disciplines has to follow. And it's and we're going to call that ring conditioning.
Right.
A lot of folks don't understand that there is street conditioning as well.
Absolutely.
And, besides street conditioning, there's also combat ready conditioning. And I want you to, because in your field you're using more of the combat readiness. And let's separate all those together for the folks out there to kind of get an idea of what we're talking about.
I think that all forms of conditioning share a few concepts here and there, but they all have their specialties, obviously. Back when I was a correctional officer, I was on the SORT team, which is the Special Operations Response Team. And pretty much we were the guys in black, or the men in black, as they used to like to call us. And I remember my SORT commander stating that you basically had the kind of conditioning you needed for such a situation, based in reality, was you had to be able to run from, let's say if there was a situation in Foxtrots, you had to be able to run from building Alpha to Foxtrot in a full sprint, in full gear, while playing a game of chess in your head, So in other words, you have to be extremely calm. You have to obviously be breathing the entire way, because when you get there, you might have to fight for 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes straight, and you don't want to gas out, obviously. So that always stuck with me, and because you just never know. I mean, with a fight, and I've done the sports fighting before. With a fight, you have an X amount of time to get ready for it. You know who your opponent's going to be. You're able to watch tapes on them, video on them, whatever have you not. You have that intel. In the street, you don't. You have no idea who you're going to go up against if a situation were to present itself. Is this individual on drugs? Are they in better shape than you are? Are there more than one? It's a mixed weapon world we live in, so you never know, who's going to pull what out and what have you not. So the one thing you don't want to do, obviously, is you don't want to gas out, whether you're going to fight or whether you're going to run. Which one is it going to be? Either way, you have to have that cardio conditioning. But it's not just being able to run; it's just being able to fight in general. Muscles require oxygen; they require the blood flow. And what does adrenaline do when people tend to panic? All that tends to seize up. The conditioning that comes from physically training for functionality also transfers over to mentally, obviously. And once again, the kind of training that I definitely am involved with. I mean, I still do the traditional weights. I've gotten a lot into like the strongman training type of a deal, and I found that a lot of the strongman training actually lends to as far as combat efficiency a lot more than all the other ways I've trained in the past. And not to knock bodybuilding or anything. Like I got a lot of physical competitive bodybuilders and so forth. But once again, going for the strongman, the CrossFit kind of training, it is much more functional and it's more adaptable to what it is that I do. I tend to train with a plate carrier, like actual armor, body armor plate carrier that weighs about 20 pounds. I whether it's shooting, whether it's sprinting, jumping over walls, things. My training is very unconventional, but it's very adaptable to the world that I'm actually employed in. So again, it is extremely very mission specific. And it's mainly there just to, like I said, it's there to build gas. Obviously, if you gas out, like I say, fatigue makes a coward out of men.
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct, and you have to be conditioned for the fight.
Right.
And in your type of field and type of combat readiness or conditioning, is there a lot of conditioning with the hands and so on and so forth, like you would more like with the street readiness? Because there's a lot of martial arts that condition the hand for striking and your legs for kicking and so on and so forth. But a lot of folks nowadays have lost track of those old ways of training.
No, they have. Absolutely. I still use the old makiwara pad, the old Japanese makiwara. I use the ring for like the Wing Chun steel ring. I wrap my hands up now. I'm not like when I was a kid and I was younger. I didn't really care. Unfortunately, with all the lifting I've done, all the striking I've done, the stick work and so on and so forth, over the years I have developed carpal tunnel in both wrists. I have to be a little bit more careful. So I have to take preventative measures. I wrap up my wrists and so on and so forth. Occasionally I'll get a bout of carpal tunnel where it just my hands tend to seize up and I get the pins and needles and what have you. Now it's really painful. And it'll last for about a minute or two. So I have to be a little bit more careful now that I'm getting older. I mean, I always say screw age, but at the same time, we do have to accept the fact that we are not getting younger. We're not going in reverse. We're getting older. But that means that you have to train smarter and not always necessarily harder. But grip strength is really big, especially like in strongman training. Grip strength is extremely big. And it's definitely a little bit more, it's more forgiving than some of the other methods I used to use to strengthen my hands and so forth.
Correct. How, and let's do this. arts that are more combat readiness,
Mhm.
which ones would you say, you know what, these are the ones that folks should train in or should not dabble in, but should at least cross train with for them to be going into the combative element
I,
field?
I think it's really hard to say. I mean, it's like we got so many nowadays. It's not even funny. I remember like when Krav Maga first came on scene. And again, I got a lot of friends that do Krav Maga and what have you. Sadly, of course, there's also individuals, unscrupulous individuals out there that just want to make a buck. So of course they promote it with their Hollywood promises and so on and so forth. But I think that over the years, a lot of stuff has definitely evolved. I think MMA definitely lends to that, but people have to also understand. And again, once again, I'm going to state that I have a lot of friends that do MMA training and absolutely do compete. But obviously, that is sports oriented. Yeah, it's great for conditioning and so on and so forth. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I've done, I do jujitsu, I've wrestled and so on and so forth. But the only problem with those systems is that they don't deal with multiple opponents for starters. They don't deal with street psychology. They don't deal with, as far as, once again, like I said before, it's a mixed weapon world we live in, and so on and so forth. So it's not necessarily something that's obviously geared for the street the way some people would like to think it is. It lends to it, but it's not as a whole. It's just it just wouldn't work. Obviously, I do like a lot of the teachings that Tim Larkin from Target Focus Training has to say. I mean, I watch his videos. I have a couple of his books and what have you not. My instructor Hawk, W. Hawk Huckheim.
Sure.
I've been with him since. Yeah, absolutely. I've been with him since. Oh goodness, I'm trying. Let me see. Let me look at my certificate. It's been such a long time. I've been with him since about, I think, 2002, 2003, and reached a certain level of instructorship and so forth. But again, it's never been focused on everything that he's taught. Has never been focused on an art or this or that or whatever have you not. Once again, because we do live in a mixed weapon world and so on and so forth. You have to learn to adapt and whatever have you not. If you're too locked in, well, my system this or my system that, then you're missing out what's going on over here on this side, and so on. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot of good systems out there right now, but you still have to learn how to, some are Hollywood hype, as I like to say. So it's like I tell people, just be careful what you look, do your homework first, in other words, and make sure it's complete and it addresses all threats that you could possibly encounter.
Absolutely. And that's basically what you need, especially if you're going to go up on the field.
Right.
If that's what you're looking for. If you just want to go ahead and just do something for yourself or for self-esteem and so on and so forth, there's plenty of schools for that.
Right. Absolutely.
There's plenty of schools for kids going in there trying to get them a little bit more, build that self-confidence. There's plenty of schools for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Point fighting, there's schools for that. And if people call me, I'll tell them, look, these are the schools that do that because we don't.
Right. Absolutely.
So, you don't, I could tell my colleagues out there, don't be saddened by recommending somebody to the school down the street that takes kids point fighting.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Because you might have a kid that goes with you and he really doesn't like it because you're teaching a little bit more reality based.
Right.
And they're not going to accept that, and either his mindset doesn't accept it or his knowledge of life doesn't accept it.
Absolutely.
So don't be saddened by sending somebody off to another school.
That's true. That's true. And they'll return the favor to you too. So
one day they'll return the favor. That's the way it is. And like you got guys. We have one guy that says, I want to do boxing. I want you to take me to the ring. I'm no longer taking folks to the ring. It's been a while since I've taken somebody to the ring. Right now, I don't have. My school's not built for that. So guess what? I'm going to send you to the person that is right now taking pros to the ring. Go to this school. And,
there you go.
And he's doing wonderful. At least he's going to have a bout.
Right.
But you're exactly right. I haven't talked to Huck in a very long time. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's doing great. He's doing really good right now, especially after COVID and the whole 9 yards, and it screwed everybody's schedules up and whatever have you not. He's up and running again. I'm hoping to host him here in Tucson here soon.
Absolutely. I hope so. And number one, What would you tell the person out there that wants to step into the security realm, the more combative realm? What should they look for if they're looking for that type of company or that type of vocation?
They gotta, well, for starters, it's cut your teeth, obviously. Even if it means, whether it's somebody who came from the law enforcement background or from the military background or whatever have you not, you're not going to necessarily get tier 1 contracts or anything like that, or get on a tier 1 contract. You may have to start at the bottom. I know I did. At the age of 18, with a fake ID, I started working at a strip bar. And a strip bar and a biker bar right next door, to be honest with you. And honestly, I think, to me, those two were like one of my number one educations. I felt like I was street savvy before, but working at those two joints, that opened my eyes to a lot, and I learned a lot. Obviously, ask questions from people in the field and so forth. Sometimes it's not necessarily. Most of the times, the majority of the times, especially in the private sector field, it really comes down to who do you know that can get you on. It really seriously does. But I wasn't like I worked in Mexico. I worked across the border for an X amount of time. And it's not like I was able to jump just like that to something like that, to literally build my reputation, build my resume. A lot of the training you're paying for yourself. So seek out good quality instructors where that training is going to be adaptable to what it is that you do. But as far as the private sector security field, you might start off at the bottom. Like I said, you might be guarding a convenience store, what have you not. But you can definitely make your way up from there. Like I said, I come from corrections and so forth. I was doing contract work before contract work became even popular. Before the days of Call of Duty, video games, and so on and so forth that made being a contractor popular. Even before the formation of Department of Homeland Security, I was already doing it. And then after that, it just blew up. The field just blew up. The private sector just blew up. And especially after I did leave corrections, I took that experience and that training and I brought it to the private field, and that opened up a lot of doors, quite a bit of doors. But and I continued my martial training. I continued the conditioning. And I just, like I tell people, is that just don't stop moving. Keep going forward and keep evolving. The day you stop moving, that's the day you die. And that's just, you become a dinosaur. Especially in this field, you got to do it if you want to stay alive.
Absolutely. Those are some great pearls of wisdom that you're saying out there, especially for the folks out there that are looking for that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you would say that conditioning more for between the street that differentiates street to the combat field is more what?
As far as it's a lot of once again, it is a lot of endurance. Where I said, like I said before, where a lot of sports conditioning definitely it lends a lot to reality or functionality training or functional training, whatever people want to call it these days. I remember my old coach used to tell me, it's like, well, if your match or your bout is going to be, let's say, 2 minutes long, we're going to train for 5 minutes. So you're going to keep going for 5 minutes. You're going to push it hard for 5 minutes straight. If you can survive 5 minutes, in 2 minutes, it's going to be absolutely nothing. So that way of thinking actually transferred over to a lot of the reality functional training that I do now. So if I can push it really, really hard for an X amount of time to the point that I'm almost puking, that means that, a street fight should never last that long to begin with. But it's the peace of mind of knowing that I'm not going to gas out. Like I said, there's nothing worse when that starts to happen. Your muscles start to seize up and you can't breathe anymore. Whatever. You still got like maybe 2 other guys. You're still fighting, whatever. It's again, fatigue makes a coward out of men. So I do think that, I think that there's too much infighting within the systems, whether it's sports or combat or reality combatives or even people just doing martial arts just to do martial arts. I think that they all can really, honestly, they can all really teach each other a thing or two. They can really lend out certain things, certain concepts that they have can actually transfer over quite nicely. So it's bridging those gaps more than anything else. It's those gaps that kind of like causes all this infighting and all this crap that you hear in the industry.
Absolutely. And what you said is correct. The conditioning changes from one to another. And back then we used to put on 14 and 16-ounce gloves, boxing gloves inside the ring. People say, "Why are you doing that?" Well, number one, you're wearing a pound and you're throwing jab cross.
There you go.
Guess what? You're gonna be fighting as what, a middleweight with 10 ounces.
I have seen people gas out. Everybody uses the MMA gloves. And I mean, that's like, those are nothing. Those are absolutely nothing. And I've seen them, like, for the very first time, they'll put on the 10-ounce gloves and they gas out so fast, it's not even funny.
Absolutely. And that's just the way it was. Well, Jesse, I want to thank you for enlightening us with a little bit of your knowledge. And hopefully, folks out there, if you guys like this, I want you all to share, press like, make a comment, ask questions, because that's what it's all about. It's about learning.
Absolutely.
And, we have to understand that in the martial arts, there's different realms within the arts of why we're doing it. Some folks are doing it because, guess what? At night, they're going to go protect somebody.
Mm-hmm.
That's an executive protection specialist. Or guess what? They're doing it because the following 2 weeks, they're going to have a bout.
There you go.
Okay. Or guess what? They live in a rough neighborhood, and the guy goes, "You know what? There's been a lot of fights. I've already gotten some, so I'm going to be training for me to be able to defend myself against that." So you have to understand why you're doing the martial arts.
Absolutely.
And also the schools matter as well. So pay attention to exactly what Mr. Murrieta said. Number one, look closely at all the schools, research your style, research everything, and from there on, have fun.
There you go.
Once more, my brother, you be safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much for having me. You take care.
Until next time.
All right.
Host